Hello and welcome, my friends, to the Zenpreneur podcast. This is your host, Mario Lanzarotti. Today, I have the honor and excitement to share the space with another exciting guest. His name is Nathan Hirsch. He is a lifelong entrepreneur on a mission to make entrepreneurship simpler for millions. Nathan is best known for co-founding FreeUp.net in 2015 with, listen to this, an initial investment budget of $5,000. And guess what? He scaled it to 4 years later to $12 million in revenue. And then having it acquired in 2019. I definitely want to talk about that. Today, he owns quite a vast portfolio of companies with his partner, Connor Gillivan. A few you may know, such as Ecom Balance and Accounts Balance, or Outsource School, the one that's on his t-shirt right now, and Trio SEO. Nathan has appeared on almost 900 podcasts, which is crazy and amazing. And we're going to ask him about that as well. And you can follow him on all the major social media platforms. Nathan, my friend, welcome to the show.
Mark, thanks so much for having me. I know I reschedule on you a bunch, so sorry about that. I hate rescheduling on people, but I have a newborn and it's beginning of the year and all the craziness that goes with that. So thank you for being patient with me, and hopefully I can deliver in this episode.
Well, absolutely. I know the episode will be worth the wait. And Nathan, how the heck do you get on 900 podcasts? Let me start right there.
Yeah, it's funny because I started off being an Amazon seller, right? And you're kind of behind the scenes. No one knows who you are. It's not B2B. You're not really, even back then, you weren't really networking. Now there's Amazon conferences and stuff, but it was very secretive, and you're kind of hiding behind whatever your seller name is. And your seller name doesn't really matter because all that matters is Amazon. And when we
Right.
started FreeUp, it was our first B2B business. We essentially took a lot of the VAs and freelancers from our Amazon business and started offering them to other e-commerce sellers. And we got to learn B2B. We got to have our own website, which was cool, and learn branding and learn partnerships. And we started to experiment with what is the best way to get in front of our target audience. And it just so happened that podcasts were becoming more popular. I think Entrepreneur on Fire, you've probably heard of. That was like one of the first big business podcasts. And I was lucky enough to get on that before they started charging. And for me, it kind of opened my eyes, being like, hey, if I go on every e-commerce podcast, I'm going to get in front of thousands of e-commerce sellers. And that was just a great way to grow the business. Now, I didn't know all the other stuff that went with it. Like, you got backlinks, you built network and partnerships with the hosts, and all the other
Mhm.
things that were great. But essentially, for 4 years of FreeUp, I was just going on every podcast I possibly could. Now I'm a little bit more picky, and I turned down a lot of podcasts. But back then, I was just saying yes to everything. And there was even a week where I did 5 podcasts a day, 5 days in a row, 25 in a week. By Friday, I couldn't talk.
Wow.
But I mean, it was worth it. It got us in front of lots of people, and it was definitely a great way that we grew our brand. And it's not before it was our top marketing strategy. Now it's just one of our many marketing strategies.
Hmm. So for somebody listening, I've done podcasts as well, quite a few, I think around about 50, right? Compared to 900, not that much. But I'm curious, what would you recommend somebody who is trying to get on bigger podcasts, or at least on the kind of podcasts that are really relevant to their target audience?
Yeah, so we have a podcast outreach formula. If you go to outsourceschool.com/podcast, and it's essentially how we have a VA pitching podcasts for us. And it's like anything else in business. How do you get really good leads? How do you get really good partners? The same thing applies for podcasts. It's doing your research to figure out which ones they are, and having some basic check marks, like, do they allow guests? Are they still active? Have you been on it before? Then you kind of look at, okay, how many episodes have they had? Who's their target audience? And get a little bit more picky there. And it's really outreach and follow up, and using your network to get on other podcasts. So for like right now, I'll be talking to people and they hear I go on podcasts, and they'll say, "Oh, I know Bob, I know Joe," and they'll kind of get me that in. Or I'll just be pitching podcasts consistently. If you're pitching 5 to 10 podcasts every day, which doesn't take you that much time, but again, you can use my outreach formula to do it. eventually you're going to get on a lot of podcasts, and you might have to follow up. I've gotten creative ways where there was this really big Amazon podcast with Scott Volker that I couldn't get on. He rejected me for like 2 years. And every 6 months, I would just follow up nicely, no pressure, not being pushy, just being like, hey, I really think it would be a good fit. Here's a value I could add. And then I started grabbing testimonials of free up clients that were also in his community. And I said, hey, here's your community that's using my service, that's vouching for it. And then he finally let me on, and then he invited me back a few times after that. So sometimes you have to get creative, but I'm a big fan of follow-up, and you don't want to be like, you got to take rejection as what it is. Like, people are busy, people get pitched all the time. It's not a personal attack on you. It just means that you have to follow up in a nice, respectful way.
Mm. That's such a great insight, and it really is a testimony to who you are being in the world. You even have the strategy that you used on your website for free, from what I'm hearing, and you can just plug and play a VA. I mean, I have a VA that I could pretty much use for this strategy, so it just shows that you are a man of value. Now, I do want to know, what have you seen in terms of the effect that this had on your business? Like, you, just before we hit the record button, I asked you, have you seen any significant returns by being on 900 plus podcasts?
Yeah, I mean, some of our best clients came from podcasts, even now with Outsource School or my bookkeeping brands, Ecom Balance and Accounts Balance, or Trio SEO. We get clients all the time from that. We're big proponents of SEO, hence we run an SEO business. But even before that, SEO is a big part of our strategy, and part of SEO is getting really good backlinks. And a lot of really good podcasts have really good domain websites, or run a really good business that has a good domain website. So getting those backlinks is key. It's also evergreen content that you can repurpose. You can put it on your website. You can put it on your YouTube channel, stuff like that. You can check out my company's YouTube channels. So podcast allows you to take 20 minutes to an hour that's going to become evergreen, that you can use in a lot of different ways. And I mean, big picture, we scaled and sold free up without spending any money on ads. I mean, we dabbled in it for a little bit, probably spent less than a few grand. Nothing really came of it, but podcast was a big part of that strategy, and we landed a lot of great clients from it. We became very well known in our niches. We became looked at as the go-to authority in the VA space. So I'm a big proponent of podcasts, and you don't need to be crazy like me and go on 900, but if you're going on 1 to 3 every single month, that's going to really help you over time.
That's a great point. Now, you mentioned, or I mentioned in the beginning, that you started freeup.net in 2015 with $5,000, and you scaled it to 12 million in yearly revenue. Now, when people hear these kind of numbers, when I hear that kind of number, I'm like, damn, how do I follow suit? And so, do you think this is still possible today, or do you see the market has changed where now it might be a lot harder to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of starting another freelance marketplace, there's definitely more competition. You got AI, you got other stuff. Still not impossible. I mean, we like the marketplace model, and we like the freelancer industry, and we don't think it's going anywhere. So it's something that we'd love to get back into at some point. But I mean, the whole concept of starting a really profitable, lean business, absolutely. I mean, we've done that ourselves again with Outsource School and Accounts Balance and True SEO. We live in a great time where you don't need $500,000 to start a business. You don't need an office. You don't need lots of US employees and payroll and overhead and all the stuff that goes there. So I absolutely know that you can do it. Whether the number is $5,000, 1,000, 25,000, obviously depends on what business you're in. But for me, it kind of starts with the basic. And I was telling someone about this yesterday. I prove something before I invest a lot of time and money into it. So with FreeUp, we had all these VAs and freelancers. We launched with $5,000. We built a minimum viable software that did almost nothing. Clients could see the freelancer on their side. Freelancers could log hours on their side, and they could both see each other. And that was it. All the billing was manual. All the matching was manual. Creating an account with us was manual. Applying was manual. We eventually added that into the software, but we launched with what is the minimum viable software that we could run this business with. And then we got our initial clients. We offered people free hours of virtual assistants. And we asked for feedback. We asked for what they liked, what they didn't like, what we could do better, and we used that to improve. And we did the same thing with Outsource School. We launched at a discount, and if anyone hated it or if everyone hated it, we would have just refunded them and moved on to something else. With Accounts
Mhm.
Balance and Ecom Balance, we offered 2 free months of bookkeeping. If we couldn't give away 2 free months of bookkeeping, or we couldn't keep those clients after the first 2 months, we were just going to shut the business down and move on to something else. So for me, I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into the trap of, hey, I'm going to keep building, keep building, keep building. And then once it's perfect, I'll launch. Or once I get $500,000, then I'll build something, then I'll go to market. For me, it's get something as minimum as you can, prove that you can sell it, and sales cures everything, and you can build from there.
Hmm. I like that this principle of prove it before you scale it. What would you say are like today 3 cost efficient tools that you are using to prove a concept before you decide to pour in more resources?
Social media. I mean, we don't do a lot with paid, but we're on every platform, and we're creating posts like Trio SEO. We launched in August, and we had 10 open client spots, and we filled those just by posting. We told people what we were doing. We teased it a little bit. We dropped a lot of really good SEO advice for those of you that follow Connor Gillivan on LinkedIn. He's posting SEO advice all the time, and then we offered away the free months or the free articles that we did for Trio SEO. So social media is a big part of it. Partner programs is a big thing. We have our organic marketing blueprint at Outsource School, but once you build partnerships with lots of people in the space, we then reach
Hmm.
out to our partners and say, hey, we're launching this new thing. Would you like to either A, be a partner for it, B, be a client for it, C, do some kind of cross promotion, backlink, something like that? And we have a partner page on all of our websites. We use WordPress, pretty cheap, inexpensive to use and have and maintain. And that's something that we launched from the beginning. In terms of like other free tools that we start up with, we always have an email list. So we use Active Campaign to start collecting emails early on. We always have high quality lead magnets that are pretty cheap to create, although we try to make sure they're high value. And if you go to any of our websites, you'll see a lot of really great resources like accountsbalance.com/reports. You get what a clean monthly report looks like. That sure, you could use us and we'd love you to, but you can also take that to your bookkeeper, take that to your CPA and say, hey, I want my report to look like this. So we try to
Hmm.
add as much as possible and grow our email list as we go. And that only makes it easier as you grow your business.
I love how simple these tools are. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, there's often this wave of people that try to explain it like it's this complex, very hard and difficult thing to do. But from what I'm hearing with you, one of the pillars of your success is the quality of your relationships. Like it seems like you're very strong in building relationships and re-nurturing. Can you speak into that?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Entrepreneurship is hard, right? Businesses fail. Majority of businesses fail. There's no making it easy. But for me, the best businesses are the ones that keep it simple. The more
Right.
complex you make your business, and the more that you focus on shiny objects, the harder everything becomes. When you move your business, when you focus your time on good hiring and systems, and then good finances and understanding your numbers, and good SEO and putting out good content, which are the 3 companies I run right now, that's what trumps everything. Like if you go back 10 years or you fast forward 10 years, finances and hiring are still going to matter. SEO and good content is still going to matter. So that's what we focus on, and everything else is just noise that is there to kind of distract you. But yeah, sorry, what was the question again? We kind of got off of that.
Yeah, we talked about, so we started out with entrepreneurship being portrayed as this very complex thing that is almost like a rocket science kind of approach to it. But the way that you're bringing it forward is you're focusing on the basic principles, the ones that, whether you do them in 1980 or whether you're doing them in 2040 in the future, they probably will still be the same. And we talk about relationships. So I'm wondering, what's your
Relationships.
view on
That was the part I missed.
relationships?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, relationships are key. Like my one of my sayings is like, don't screw people over. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's plenty of opportunities in business where you can do that, where
Yeah.
you could be right and still hurt someone else's business. You've got your own terms of use, you've got your own policies. For me, I want to leave on good terms with everyone at all times. I had
Right.
clients, most clients liked free up, but there were a handful of times where there was some dispute with the freelancer and I could have argued a point. I could have saved the company $500 or something, but I sat down and said, what is it going to take to resolve this, to make you happy? Because I don't want something I don't want to go to sleep at night knowing that you're unhappy with me or my service. And sure, you lose a
Mhm.
little bit of money in the short term, but you make a lot more in the long term by keeping people happy, and you build a lot of
Yeah.
trust, and you get people that'll use you on different companies. And same thing, like I've had people who have quit on me or I fired. I'm not trying to hurt them. They're not trying to hurt me. Leave on good terms. Don't burn any bridges, like my mom always used to say. So that's kind of how I approach business is I'm going to do everything possible to make sure you have a great customer service and business and service experience. And my team's working nonstop to make that happen. But if it doesn't happen and it's so something slips through the cracks, I'm going to make it right and make you whole 100% of the time. And that's kind of how I just treat business. I learned that at one of the only internships I had back in the day with Firestone. And it's always playing the long game. I'd much rather work with you long term than make a quick buck off you and leave unhappy. And I don't want to run any business that is not legitimately able to get 5-star reviews consistently, real reviews from real customers. Those are the only kinds of businesses I want to operate.
Mm. I love that philosophy, and I think it's directly applicable to your personal life. When what comes up for me is the word integrity, because you were talking about how you're making people whole, and how when you're messing up, you are taking a stand for that. You take responsibility, and so what is it that you see that makes so many entrepreneurs nowadays fall into this short-term focus?
Yeah, I mean that everyone wants that. This is nothing new. Everyone's always wanted a quick buck. That's why all those scams and LM or multi-level marketing stuff works. Everyone always wants the shortcut, and you can
Yeah.
find certain opportunities where timing works. I know people during COVID made money on certain things, or like no question, timing was a big factor for me on Amazon, for example. I just got in at a great time, 2008, 2009, but for me and the lesson that I learned from the Amazon business, because we kind of went up, sold a lot, and then didn't have anything sustainable and went down pretty quick, is to focus on that longevity. I mean, no business is around forever. Even the Amazon and the Apples of the world someday will probably go away. But when you can look at something as, hey, let's build something that's going to make money for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years instead of for the next 6 months, to me, that's a lot more fun. And it also gets away from the craziness where you're always changing what you're doing. I know a lot of entrepreneurs where every time I talk to them, it seems like they're doing something different and they scrap the last thing because that fad was gone. I try to avoid that and try to avoid the shiny objects and just focus on boring stuff. Like, what's more boring than hiring, bookkeeping, and SEO? Like, those are the most three boring business stuff out there. And sure, like TikTok becomes popular, everyone jumps to TikTok and tries to run a TikTok agency. But for me, it's let's stay focused on stuff that I don't know if TikTok is going to be popular in 5 years, but I know that
Mhm.
finances and hiring and SEO and other stuff that we have ideas for is going to be. So it's definitely a big factor in anything that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm hearing there is you talking about mastering the basics. And I think a lot of people nowadays, they think they could skip the basics. They can just move ahead to only the fun stuff, only the stuff that is exciting. And as you're speaking, I'm also wondering, I can see there behind your right shoulder, the very corner, there's the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And so I know that you're involved in a lot of different projects and companies, and now you have a newborn. So I'm wondering, uh, how do you balance all of that? How do you manage all these multiple businesses and still keep your sanity?
Yeah, it's a good question. The real answer is we don't start a business unless we have an operator in place from day one. And that was kind of what was appealing to me for the bookkeeping side is I'm not a bookkeeper. I'm not a CPA. That's just not my background. So even if I wanted to be the operator of the bookkeeping business, which I don't, I couldn't be, even if I wanted to. So we had to hire an operator if we wanted to start a bookkeeping business. So we spent a lot of time searching. We found Shelia, who has 30 years of experience, used to run her own bookkeeping business, and made her the operator of the company. And then we can build everything around it. We've got the marketing strategies that we use for all of our companies. We know how to hire from Outsource School. We know how to build processes. We know how to build partnerships. All the stuff around it, we can put into place and hire people and support them. But at the end of the day, we need that operator. And moving to SEO, which is a little different because my business partner is actually really good at SEO, Connor. But we don't have time to run all these businesses and be the operator. So if we were going to start an SEO service, we need an SEO operator. And we spent months finding this person, Steven Snyder, a lot of SEO experience, wanted what we wanted, same values, put him in charge as an operator. Again, we built the support system around him, the stuff that he didn't have experience with, hiring certain types of marketing, stuff like that. We were able to do all this stuff around him and build the strategy, but he's running the business. If there's a client situation or we land a new client, like he's doing the onboarding, he's doing all of that kind of stuff with his team and teaching his team to do it. So that is what is hopefully going to allow us to build this portfolio of businesses. Is I'm not spending 4 hours a day on each company running the operations. I'm looking at it high level and saying, hey, how do I build essentially a media company around Connor and my brand, go on podcasts, do the other marketing stuff, point people to my businesses, knowing that the people I put in charge there are going to take really good care of the people that I send.
So you're really mastering the art of operating in your zone of genius and having people around from the get-go. Now, would you say this is possible for any kind of business to start with an operator in mind from day one? Or do you see that for some it might make sense to do it later on?
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely make sense to do later on. I mean, Amazon and FreeUp, I was the operator for a while before we built someone in. It's kind of the rookie entrepreneur mentality versus the veteran entrepreneur mentality. And you're also at different stages in your life. Like when I was 20, I could hustle. I could work 14-hour days. Like that was fine. I didn't really have any responsibility. It was fun. Now that I'm 34 and have a family and all the stuff that goes with that, like I don't want to work 15-hour days. I don't need to. And I don't want to run any business. I don't want to start any business that's going to require me to do that. So there's a time and a place for hustle. I mean, hustling got me the financial freedom I have now and the opportunity to start this portfolio. Now, would it have been smarter to hire an operator from day one of FreeUp and maybe we would have grown faster and I would be able to have more than one business at a time? Sure. But there's no necessarily right or wrong answer for entrepreneurship. There's a lot of different ways to build businesses. They all have their pros and cons. And you can make more money without hiring the operator because it's one less person you have to pay. I would argue it's not sustainable over time. You're probably going to burn yourself out. It's going to be harder to scale, harder to sell it if you ever want to do that. But there's a time and a place for anything, and there's no right or wrong way. And some people want to create a job for themselves, and for them, that's better than going to a 9 to 5. And then there's people that what they really want is to be above the business and have those operators in place.
I like that answer because it presents the picture that I often communicate, where my approach to business is very different from the hustle grind mentality, which is all about just work, and then fall unconscious into your bed at some point and pray that you're not going to fall apart. I've done that, right? I've done that lifestyle, and now I don't do that anymore, and I focus on efficiency and then being effective in my actions, in my thinking, in my delegation processes. But at the same time, I love how you're presenting that as a choice. There's no right or wrong. There's no this is better than the other. There's what works for you. And for me personally, I see business as a vehicle to support the kind of life that I want to live, not 10 years down the road, but today. Now, does that mean that sometimes I can't have as many options as I would have maybe in 5 years with millions of dollars? Sure. But that doesn't mean that I cannot enjoy where I am and have a full-on experience of having created all of this myself, rather than, just going into a 9 to 5 where I'm working towards somebody else's dream. I'm also curious to understand First of all, do you still face low periods in your life, emotionally, mentally, physically? And if you do, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I am incredibly lucky and happy with where my life is now. Like, knock on wood, everyone around me is healthy. I have that financial freedom. I have life freedom. I can do anything I want at any given time. Um, and I love where I live. We moved to Denver, Colorado. We bought a second house here. So very, very fortunate there. And there's very few things about my life that I would change. Now, is my life perfect? Do I never have a down day? Of course not. I mean, right now, what I'm dealing with is a 5 month old who doesn't sleep through the night. So every day I just have the tired dad zone that I'm in. And there's definitely days that are a struggle, that I thought I was going to be more productive than I was, and I just didn't have it that day. So there's definitely nothing like terrible going on in my life, but again, knock on wood. But sure, you have down days. You've got days where you question everything. Like, entrepreneurship is hard. I've got this issue right now with just to give you like a glimpse into what I've been dealing with. One of our payment processors for paying our team, and luckily we have a backup one, just was giving us a pain. And I probably spent 10 hours over the past 2 days on talking to their support, trying to problem solve, like, what is going on? We've been working with you guys for 8 years on 3 different businesses. Why is this becoming such a hassle? Not really what I want to be spending my time on. And it's definitely been
Mhm.
frustrating and annoying. In the grand scheme of things, is my life terrible because I've had to deal with this customer service issue? No, but I would like to resolve it and move on to more fun things and growing businesses. And I didn't sign up to be an entrepreneur to be on customer support for 10 hours. So there's always stuff like that that pops up where you find yourself in things that are not fun or not enjoyable, or you're down one day, or personal stuff happens. Yeah, that's just kind of life and how it works. But I always try to look like big picture. I'm super fortunate, even before the business success or whatever. Like, I had two loving parents. I grew up middle class. My parents were both teachers, but they always supported me. They always encouraged me to try new things. They always put food on the table and loved me. And my wife and I were foster parents to teens, and we've had a lot of teens in our house that didn't have that. Their parents weren't around. Their parents had drug issues, or whatever it was. So it kind of puts things in perspective when you look at stuff big picture.
Mm. Do you have any habits or daily habits or rituals that you like to maintain that keep this positive outlook on life?
The biggest habit that I've been very good at keeping is 1 hour a day. Usually, right after this, we're filming this at 9:30. I usually work out at 11. I do. I built a custom base for my gym. I do a 1 hour hit workout. No one bothers me. My phone's off. I'm not working, and I just go ham. And I burn a lot of calories. It's intense. It clears my head. It's what works for me, and it gets me away from anything stressful that's going on. If I had a good or bad client conversation before, it doesn't matter. I'm able to just clear my mind and get away
Mm.
from it, and then come back to my desk and finish up the day. So that's something that's been working for me for years now. I have a good streak going. I was a little worried when I had a kid that the streak would end, but my goal is to keep that up. And I don't know. Health and fitness has always just been a big part of my life. My parents are super active in a different way. They're always hiking and biking and stuff like that, and they're in their 70s. So that's something that's kind of ingrained in my head, and that's a big thing for me to just get away from all the stress that entrepreneurship comes with.
Mm-hmm, 1 hour hit session. That's intense. I do the occasional 20 to 30, and that's I'm drained after that one. But 1 hour, man, respect.
I appreciate it. I have friends that won't come back after they do a few of them with me, but I have some that come like once a week or whatever. But yeah, everyone thinks I'm crazy.
What's your view on? Do you have a specific view on spirituality and how you run your business in terms of like, does it follow a certain pattern in terms of a mission that you have with that?
Yeah, I'm not a very spiritual person. I wish I could do more to meditating and stuff. It's just never been my thing. Not against it. It's just not for me.
Mhm.
For me, it's all about treating people well. Like, that's my value, and it goes like we kind of talked about the client side, but the team side is big too. When we sold Free Up, we took $500,000 from the sale. We gave it to our team in the Philippines. It was awesome seeing
Wow.
the houses and the cars and the stuff they were able to buy with that and change their life. And our teams now are no different. I mean, we support a lot of people, and like if any of the businesses fail, which I hope doesn't, I personally would be okay, but people would lose their jobs and it would affect their life. So that's kind of a big thing that we do is try to create an environment that's fun where people want to work, they want to stay, they want to be part of the family, obviously make good money and be able to pay for things that they need, and also have that work-life balance. We don't want a situation where people are working 80 hours a week stressed for us. We want something where they can go and have a weekend with their family and get paid days off and all the things there. So that's kind of how we approach business on both sides. We always tell people we want to win-win-win. We want to win for the client, a win for our team, and a win for Connor and I. And that's what we're looking for in every situation. And if someone's not happy, whether it's a client, a teammate, whatever it is, even a freelancer back in the day on the platform of Free Up, we want to figure out why and how do we A, fix this, and B, put steps in place so it doesn't happen to anyone else again.
What does that do for you? Because as I was just looking at you and explaining that, you were lighting up, and I'm wondering what kind of internally, what kind of a role does that play for you, being able to have your business be a vehicle for change in so many different lives?
Yeah, it's super motivating. I mean, personal wealth only motivates you so far. I think every entrepreneur gets to that point. Sure, like I grew up as a middle class kid. Like my parents wouldn't give me anything. I had to work for anything that I earned. So once you make that first payday, you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. But at some point, like just filling up your bank account becomes not the number one motivating factor, and it becomes boring and unfulfilling. So for me, being able to wake up every day and work with essentially three different teams that I really like and have a lot of respect for, and be able to see how motivated they are and that they bought into the company, and also the fun stuff that they're doing on weekends because they share that every Monday. Like to me, that's what drives me every single day, and it all goes together. Like one doesn't go without the other. I told my wife this when we first started dating. I was like, you got to take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself first, nothing else matters. Like if you're running a business that can't pay you, for example, at some point you're not going to be able to sustain your own life, and everyone else around you is going to suffer. Your teammates are going to lose jobs, your clients are going to get hurt. So you still need to make sure you're taking care of yourself and that you're able to take care of your health and stuff like that. But around that, you can still take care of yourself while helping other people and all grow together instead of you on top and everyone else down here. So that's how I kind of approach it.
I love that approach. What do you what do you see have people stop from doing that? Because obviously this is a very, if I dissect this, a very efficient way of running a business, right? Your business is directly connected to a greater purpose than the individual, which is all about helping, win, win, win. This is the strategy that you shared. And obviously that keeps your hunger, your desire, your passion alive. It's like this never ending stream of forward momentum. And from that perspective, to me, it sounds like everybody should take that on because it's so effective. What do you see, though, stopping people from doing that?
Yeah, so there's different categories, and this is a good question. I mean, you've got the unethical people, right? The people only interested in a quick buck that'll do anything to make anything, and those are kind of the people I ignore and avoid and won't do business with, won't partner with. Like you'll never see me doing anything negative on social media. If someone wants to bash me, I'm just gonna block them and move on with my
Mm,
life. But you also just got have people that yeah, people that just don't understand how to get other people to buy into what they're doing. They're either always talking down to people, or they hire someone, they're like, hey, you're doing this role over here, separated from everyone else, and just do this role every day. And that's it. And no one's motivated by that. Even the
mm,
most basic data entry VA, they want to be a part of something bigger. So for us, whenever we hire someone into any of our companies, no matter what their role is, big or small, we want them to know like who we are, why we built this company, what the goals are, what we're trying to build, how what they build impacts everything else. Like how is their job impacting other people's jobs? Who are the other people on the team? How long have they been here? What have they built? Because we love builders. So giving people that information and getting them to buy into what you're doing is huge. It's the best way to reduce turnover. You'll always find companies that can pay your people more money than you can, right? But if you get people to actually buy in and believe in what you're doing and create a family inside your team of builders that want to be here, that's how you're able to grow and build something great. On the flip side, it's one of the harder things. Like when we sold FreeUp, telling our team that we sold FreeUp and that we wouldn't be working with them anymore was incredibly hard. One of the most emotional moments of my life. So there's a flip side of that too, although eventually they understood and they got the money and all that. But that's kind of my mentality and what I believe in.
So with that mentality in mind, where does the future lead you? What's the, because you, by most people's standards, you've achieved a lot already. So I'm curious, is there a even bigger vision that you have in mind that you're going after?
I mean, personally, I want to enjoy life as much as possible. My parents are older. I got them to move to Colorado. They get to hang out with their grandkid on weekends, and I get to be a dad for the first time, and I don't want to miss any second of it. I'm fortunate enough that my wife and I, we're both working from home. We've got a nanny that comes here. So they're just appreciating everything we have and spending as much time with family as possible. Off of that, like business wise, I want to keep growing a portfolio of businesses and that help other entrepreneurs that get those 5-star reviews. I want to build a social media company around my brand and use that to help other people and help. You kind of started with my tagline, help entrepreneurs make business simpler for millions. That's what I want to do. And that's kind of my mission every day when I'm working. And then when I'm not working, it's all family all the time and just having fun. We have a big Super Bowl party this weekend and just finding different ways to explore and enjoy life.
I like that. I like that. It's very focused on what you want what you probably wanted entrepreneurship to bring you a long time ago. Not just, the money, but you asked yourself, why do I want that? And now
People
you're living
forget.
that reality.
People forget why they became entrepreneurs to begin with. They became entrepreneurs to get freedom, and they find themselves working 20 hours a day. So figure out why you became an entrepreneur and make sure you're working towards that.
Yeah. I just posted this actually earlier today on my Instagram, where I talked about the main reason of running a business is not to make money, but is to have it support you to have more moments of joy and freedom. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in this idea that if they put their head down, grind it out for X number of years, it will get them to this place called financial freedom. As you said earlier, the chances of getting there are pretty slim already. And then plus, what I often see is that when they get there, they are often completely burned out, struggling with immense health issues, relationships are in shackles, and then they have to spend the money that they earned to fix everything again. And then that can lead to another imbalance. So I wanted to ask you, if I was to bring you into my business and I would say, I want it to be simpler, I want it to be more effective, what are some of the first steps that you would look into that people listening to the podcast could do directly on their own business?
Probably start by telling you that I don't do consulting, but pretending that I do for a second. I mean, first I'd look at your team and who are the important people. Like, have they bought into the company? What are they doing? What are their skill sets? Are they being used properly? I look at your hiring process for adding new people and making sure that you're adding people that have the skill, attitude, and the communication. If you don't have the right team, nothing else really matters. So that's got to be step one. And then step two is, what is your monthly bookkeeping process? What numbers are you getting every single month? When are you getting them? Are you having a monthly finance meeting, which we have a free resource you can grab on the Accounts Balance site to get our meeting agenda? And what are you going through? Like, what numbers are you using to make decisions? Are you guys making decisions every month based on gut and instinct and looking at the bank account? Or are you making them based on what the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement are doing? And then finally, I'd look at your marketing plan. And are you focusing on the latest fad, or are you focused on a long-term consistent plan that you can execute day in and day out that's going to slowly get you everywhere? And so those are kind of the keys that I would look at.
When it comes to the hiring process, what is a strategy that I can implement to make sure that I bring on the right talent that are operating in the right positions for me?
Yeah, I mean that's really what Outsource School is. People grab Outsource School. It's our interview, onboarding, training, and managing process, and plug it right into their business. At a high level, for interviewing, we focus on what we call care, communication, attitude, red flags, and experience, and look for that trifecta of people that have a great attitude, have the experience you need, and have those communication skills. We then onboard them and set really good expectations. We call it our SICK method around schedule, how to handle issues, communication, and culture, and really make sure someone's a fit and give them a chance to back out if they're not a fit before they actually start on day one. Training is all about really good SOPs, and we have a structure for how to build good SOPs that makes your business not only scalable and sellable. And then managing people. How do you keep people around? You've gone through all this effort to hire A players, hopefully. How do you keep them around for years to come? How do you give them the right bonus and raises? How do you handle issues that pop up? How do you fire someone if it comes to that and remove a bad apple before it spreads to the rest of your company? So hiring, again, it's those four parts: interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing. And you have to make sure that you're not lacking in any of them for your business to really grow.
Google once did a study. They looked at what were the key success factors among their most high performing teams across the board. And what they found, I found startling. I actually think it's amazing. They found that the number one success factor by far is psychological safety. And the way that it shows is, in one major way, is in communication. And you mentioned communication twice. And what Google was talking about is like, if your team members don't feel safe to express themselves as they are, they will withhold valuable information, and that wreaks havoc. So I'm wondering, how do you ensure with Outsource School that communication is really established? What are the sort of the underlying principles there?
Yeah, I mean, you avoid the yes people, the people who just say to yes to everything, and you want people who actually have an opinion. And I hire a lot from the Philippines, and they can have that intimidation factor. So for us, it's getting people out of their shell and making it so people will actually give feedback, and hiring people that want to contribute. They don't want to just be a monkey that just gets told to do something and does it. And the real tip here is the initial hires you make, your veteran team, hopefully your team leaders, they have to believe in that, because if they believe in good communication and speaking up and giving feedback, then they're going to make sure any new hire listens to them and follows in their lead. If it's only coming from
Mm.
you and no one else in your team or upper levels of your team believe in that, it's going to be very hard to get new hires to do that. And you have to actually do what you say. If you tell people it's a safe space to get feedback, and the first feedback they give you quickly reject it or brush it off or don't listen to it, they're not going to want to share it again. So you need to make sure that you actually are listening to it. And even you can't implement every piece of feedback right away, but you have to at least explain to them where you're coming from, what the plan is, what you're doing with that feedback.
I love that. And I also like what you said about how the message needs to be amplified, not just from one person, like the founder, but from other team leaders inside the company, so that it sinks, from what I hear, into the culture. Speaking about culture, do you what do you see is most important to establish a winning culture inside a company?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what we call our BARF method, which is kind of a funny acronym, but it's getting them to buy in, showing appreciation, building relationships, and creating a family inside your business. And that's really what we care about. And we have like certain values, company values that are specific to each of our companies. And for example, our bookkeeping business, one of our values is don't be a hero. Like, don't take on this big project and try to go down rabbit holes to solve it. Like, speak up, make sure that you talk to a team leader if you run into issues, and that you're not agreeing to deadlines that are unrealistic, that you're open and honest about it.
Mm.
Another one is just over communicate everything, kind of like what we talked about. So we've got these company values that go along with our overarching BARF method that we try to implement in our business to get everyone on the same page. And there's other smaller things like we don't work with assholes. We don't work with people that are negative. Like there's certain things that are just quick ways to get people out of the company. But for the most part, we hold people to those higher level values.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. And I could see why you were able to scale so quickly with so little investment up front, because you clearly know how to help people perform at their very best and how to feel like they're operating inside of an environment where people believe in their potential and they see who they are. So a few more questions for you as we are nearing the end of this interview, Nathan. One question that I ask all my guests is, if you could spend 1 hour of your time with any person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, my grandpa on my dad's side, I never got to meet
Mm.
him. I mean, I was super young when he passed away, and I've heard really great stories. And they threw their whole side of their family went through a lot, just fleeing Germany and the Nazis and all the stuff there. And he was an entrepreneur too. He had his own store, so would love to have that opportunity to meet him and pick his brain.
Mm. Beautiful answer. How do you look at balance?
Yeah, I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to be successful, there's very few like perfect balance situations. Like even now, there are days where I got a lot to do. I gotta wake up early and I gotta work that 10-hour day and get stuff done. It's just what's necessary. So for me, it's can you actually get away from your business, which a lot of entrepreneurs can't, and are you missing the big moments in life? Like I don't want to. My kid's only an infant for a little bit. I want to be there as much as possible. And are you actually doing fun things that you enjoy doing? Pre-kid, I'm a big sports fan. I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Yankees fan. I'll watch every single game, and I will make it so that I won't have a podcast at a certain time if a game's on, because that's just not what I want to be doing during that time. So make sure that you design your business around whatever's important to you. And like every entrepreneur is weird. I'm no different. I like things that you probably don't care about at all, but whatever you care about, make sure you're blocking out time to do that stuff, and you're not missing out on life just because you're running this business.
I like that analogy. Is like balance is about prioritizing the things that are important to you and blocking out time for that. Um, Last question. What does a typical morning routine in Nathan Hirsch's life look like?
Pre-baby or post-baby?
Let's do pre-baby, because I know with baby everything gets turned upside down.
Pre-baby, I like to get up early. I've always been like that. It's kind of in my blood. I'll get up at 5 or 6, first few hours a day, knock out whatever the most important thing is, do some outreach too. And like for me, that's a time where no one's bothering me. And if I don't do anything else the rest of the day, the most important thing has been done. Then I'll usually get on, and all my meetings are usually scheduled in the morning. So I'll have meetings after that, podcasts like this, if there is one. And then I'll do my workout routine, and then I'll come back to any sales calls or any last wrap up stuff. And my day's usually done by 3 o'clock or so. So I like to start early, end early, and that's just kind of what works for me.
And then when do you end your day? If you end work at 3?
And like, what time do I go to bed?
Yeah.
Oh, pre-baby, anytime between 9 and 11. During baby, anytime
Mm.
between 6 and 9.
Well, I have not yet had the pleasure of having a baby, but I'm sure when the time arrives, I will be thinking of you and how life turned upside down. But Nathan, thank you so much for being on the show. You've provided a lot of very practical insights. I love all the tools that you gave to people. I'm definitely going to check out what you have on Outsource School, and you know, maybe even get my VA to follow your strategy on podcast interviews. And I would love for you to share what's the best way people can connect with you.
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn or any social media channel that you use. I post daily content, Nathan Hirsch, and yeah, would love to connect with you. Always love meeting other entrepreneurs.
Beautiful. Nathan, thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you, my dear friend, for being a loyal listener of the Zenpreneur podcast. And with that, we are complete, and I will see you on the next episode.